We're not calling women pedophiles enough. Like, these teachers who are going to school in bodycon outfits, BBLs, and in heels that you would wear to the club, wanting to be attractive to children is a thing that pedophiles do.
Class is in session. Now, I need you to focus. No. I need you to focus. Eyes up here. Eyes up here. Doing addition, okay? We're doing addition today.
As long as your skirt meet a certain length, you fine. It don't matter how tight it is. They can't rope her up on what she's wearing because it's probably allowable for the school district's dress code policy.
In an era defined by blurred lines between personal expression and professional standards, workplace attire has undergone a quiet but powerful transformation. Across industries, especially in the wake of social media influence and remote work culture, a growing shift towards more provocative style of dress is becoming increasingly visible. From the rise of the office siren aesthetic to the loosening of traditional dress codes. While this trend may reflect greater freedom in self-presentation, it also raises complex questions about how professional credibility is judged, especially in fields where trust and authority are paramount. Nowhere is the tension more pronounced than in professions involving children, particularly teachers. This role demands not only competence, but also moral trustworthiness and emotional safety. In such contexts, attire isn't just fabric, it becomes a visual cue that shapes expectations, institutional norms, and even children's perceptions. What happens then when the boundaries of what is considered appropriate start to shift? As we navigate an evolving cultural landscape, it's essential to examine not just what people wear, but how these choices shape perception and how these reactions affect career trajectories, public trust, and workplace equality. Hi babes, my name's Taja, mother of twins, lover of luxe things, and your guide for showing up with style and intention. Over the last few months, Miss Williams, also known as Teacher Bae, has gone viral on social media, in particular TikTok.
Oh, look at Miss Williams. Hey, Miss Williams. It's Monday. What?
Has been lots of controversy surrounding her because she's been posting videos from school and classroom settings wearing very form-fitting and what I'd consider to be provocative outfits, and there have been some people who have been arguing that her dress is just completely out of line, way too over the top, way too provocative, and absolutely inappropriate for the school environment.
And it's weird as fuck to me. I see mostly people concerned about her teaching corny little teenage boys, but my thing is preteen girls are already fighting for their life, trying to find their confidence, trying to fit in, trying to figure out who they are, and then they got to sit in the class in front of Miss BBL 3000 with her Chanel on display while she's welcoming people into class. That is not the example that I want set for my daughters personally.
We're not calling women pedophiles enough. Like, these teachers who are going to school in bodycon outfits, BBLs, and in heels that you would wear to the club, to school, like, wanting to be attractive to children is a thing that pedophiles do. Like, nobody wants to be attracted to children but somebody attracted to children. You know what I mean? And then you think in your head, like, all these women are so beautiful. Why would they be attracted to children? Because they're attracted to children. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with what this person looks like, but everything about their intention and their desire. Teacher Bae? Bae to who? And then another thing, it's very strange to sexualize a job that's centered around children.
Others have defended her, saying that she's following the school dress code. She was able to get the job. They seemingly haven't pulled her up about the way that she's been dressing. So if the school's okay with it, what's the big problem? And some have argued that this critique is just rooted in unfair body standards. Miss Williams is quite curvy, and so would there be this kind of uproar if she didn't have that shape?
Teacher, I'm about to be a hypocrite. I've been seeing people talk about how she should be fired for what she's wearing, and I don't think that she should be fired. A lot of the things that she's wearing, like I just said, I don't think it's professional. I think a lot of it is ill-fitting. The fabrics aren't necessarily conducive to her particular shape, but this is the world we in. Like, I understand, you know, you gotta buy something from Shein, you want to teach your shout, but there's a difference between what is professional, which is what we talking about, and what is allowable as far as the dress code from work. And from what I've seen, I might not be able to see everything, so I will, everything seems to be in alignment with what is typically enforced for dress codes at school districts. As long as your skirt meet a certain length, you fine. It don't matter how tight it is. As long as your top cover your shoulders, depending on where you at. Some districts say there needs to be a closed-toe shoe. In the South, some districts may say, just make sure that, you know, you got on some shoes.
Y'all may not love what I'm about to say, but I don't think Teacher Bae's work outfits are inappropriate or unprofessional at all. Like, whatsoever. I also think it's important for us to acknowledge that she works at a school with administrators, a dress code, and a teacher code of conduct. If she was violating any of those things, an administrator would have already addressed it.
I come from a family of teachers. My mum's a teacher. I have a few close relatives that are teachers. And I'd say that my experience of teachers and fashion is probably fairly quite conservative. I went to a religious school and the teachers wore suits or longer skirts and blouses. I definitely think there's been a shift since the time that I was in school to now. There wasn't as much social media, and so I'm sure that there were some schools where teachers wore more relaxed clothing. However, I think more recently we have definitely seen the attire worn by teachers move to the extreme, and I think that in the West there is this expectation from adults to almost befriend children. So this relaxed approach to authority has seemed to develop. I actually don't think that has always been the case, at least not for Britain as a whole. Although I do think it is more of a Western thing, I think it is also a generational thing. And we've reached a point where even when teachers aren't dressing particularly provocatively, they are dressing really, really casual. I can understand the perspective that you want the children to feel as though they are in a relaxed enough environment that they can be themselves, and school doesn't have to be boring or not fun. You can make school entertaining and a nice place to be for the kids. But I think it's slightly off balance. At least my expectation for my children when they go to school is that they understand first that school is a place that you go to learn and that your teachers have authority. For me, those two things are the most important. It would be a nice to have if they were able to have fun there. It would be a nice to have if they were able to feel comfortable there, all of those things. But the main priority is that they learn, and the main priority is that understand who's in charge. I think as with a lot of the trends that we are seeing with society nowadays, there has been an over adjustment here as well. I don't know if it's because, you know, now there are loads of millennials in the workplace and we have maybe felt overly critiqued or overly judged by adults when we were younger. And so now we want to create a space where there's no judgment, there's no authority. We're friends, you know, I'm just your teacher and I'm here to teach you things, but we also get on. And I think that mindset has also even trickled into parenting, where parents want to be friends with their children. And again, I think that is a nice to have. Of course, you want to have a healthy, friendly relationship with your children, but at least my children need to know first that I'm in charge, I'm going to guide you, and you're going to be respectful of me. I think we've just managed to get ourselves into a pickle. And of course, there is a lot of historical context around professional dress, especially for women. Women entering the workplace in years gone by often wore more formal outfits like the power suit as a way to be taken seriously in male-dominated spaces. But the rise of celebrity and influencer culture has really blurred the lines. And so Miss Williams is not the only example of teachers who maybe have accounts online or have appeared in other people's videos online, dressing in a way that I think is absolutely inappropriate. And I have seen some arguments that maybe Miss Williams is trying to seduce the children, that she is deviant for dressing in this way. And I'm not sure that I agree with that. I think we've just fallen down a hole where the majority of people believe that they should just be able to dress how they want and it shouldn't mean anything. As long as you're dressing within the rules, it shouldn't matter that her clothes are maybe form-fitting. It shouldn't matter that maybe her clothes are slightly revealing. All of these things shouldn't matter because she's following the rules of the school, and those people who are perceiving her to be sexualized are the problem. And I think us leaning into this perspective is very unhelpful. It is an innate natural function to judge people based off of what they look like. It is an involuntary response. At an instinctual level, we're trying to figure out if we can procreate with what we see, if we can eat what we see, if what we see might cause harm to us. You know, we're responding immediately based off survival instincts using our senses. So using what we see, using what we smell, using what we hear. We use our senses to make very, very, very quick decisions about what is in front of us. And so I think that there are many environments where we have to deal with the truth of what's happening. So Miss Williams is going into a space where there are teenagers, and as an adult, we all know what it's like to be a teenager, okay? We know that as a teenager, you're going through growth, your hormones are up and down, you have thoughts and feelings that might vary from day to day. I actually feel sorry for teenagers in a lot of ways, because there's a lot of things happening with them that is not obvious to the eye, that's all happening inside. And as a teacher and even as a parent, you have to equip yourself with the ability to navigate that, right? So if I know that I'm entering in a space where there are children who are going through puberty, I'm going to make sure as their teacher that I am ensuring that I'm clearly putting myself in a position of authority. Okay, and that is with how I dress, that's with how I talk to them, that is with how I address them. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have fun on occasions, right? We can't have a little joke in the classroom, or we can't have playtime, or they can't know I might have things in common with them. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but the most important thing first is to establish the fact that we're in school. I'm here to guide you through your learning, and that is the priority. The priority isn't for us to discuss what I've got on, or to discuss how pretty I am, or how attractive I am. All of those things are a distraction away from what we're here for, which is learning. I think that if anyone were to sit down and speak to this teacher or teachers who choose to dress in this way, most of them would say that they just have a certain sense of style, and they are leaning into that certain sense of style in the workplace, and it's not causing anybody any harm.
Now that I'm in the car, I want a lot of y'all to know that y'all are miserable. Y'all are really miserable. Like, y'all are making up stuff. Like, first of all, let's start here. Who even told y'all I had a BBL? Who told y'all that? Who told y'all that? Not saying it's true or not true, but I want to know who told you that. Because I got a BBL, I can't have a career. What if I just wanted some buns? Also, let's stop the PDF narrative. My children don't do that. They are very respectful young 10, 11-year-olds. They don't even look at me. See you later with my new outfit of the day on Tuesday.
Having a relaxed dress code is amazing because, in my opinion, because it gives people freedom to express themselves through fashion.
And I'd argue that that is a naive, ignorant perspective that works based on the idea of an ideal world where, you know, we can all be ourselves at all given times, and it shouldn't matter about what we look like, our height, our race. All of these things don't matter. She should just be judged based on how good of a teacher she is. But what happens when you choose to dress in this way in professional settings is that the way you look becomes the focus instead of your abilities. And this isn't just a perspective of mine. There have been many studies that have been undertaken that support this fact. In a study conducted in 2008 called The Relationship Between Sexualized Appearance and Perceptions of Women's Competence and Electability, an eye-tracking study where observers evaluated a female political candidate dressed more conservatively versus provocatively found that revealing clothing increased gaze on body parts, reducing perceived honesty and electability through lower perceived competence. In a study published in 2017 called Power and Provocativeness, the effects of subtle changes in clothes on perception of working women, they examined how subtle changes in women's clothing, for example, blouse buttons undone or camisoles versus no camisole, influence judgments of intelligence, competence and power. Slightly more revealing attire led to significant lower ratings in intelligence and competence. So in professional settings, in particular those that rely on leadership, right? I would argue as a teacher, you're a leader. I'd argue that how you dress significantly contributes to how effectively you can do your job. As a teacher, if you are perceived by students as having lower intelligence or competence, partly as a result of how you dress, how can they respect you enough to follow your lead? And actually, I have been seeing a lot of news headlines around teachers getting into inappropriate relationships with their students.
The 30-year-old teacher allegedly carried on an affair with a 15-year-old student. The teen's mom says she discovered these lurid text messages on his cell phone.
I, of course, do not think that this is a new issue. The exploitation of children in schools by authority figures is something that has been going on for centuries. And I'm certain that there has been many cases of this type of exploitation happening that hasn't been made public. But I think we're seeing a slight shift towards women being more predatory in these settings. Now, I know I did say that I don't necessarily think that Miss Williams is being predatory, but I think that it is very easy in these kinds of environments for women in particular to move from being fairly innocent, maybe enjoying the attention, maybe enjoying being the favorite teacher, moving from it being that, which in itself is problematic, but moving from that into having PDF style relationships with their students. In May of last year, Rebecca Joins was found guilty of abusing her professional position, grooming two 15-year-old boys, and actually even becoming pregnant by one of them. And in the US, Sandy Carrazas was sentenced to 25 years in prison for having inappropriate relationships with a 16-year-old student. She used texts, video chats, and had in-person meetings under the guise of a romantic relationship whilst in her teaching position. I think some of these issues are, of course, a result of some adults just being perverts, but other elements that are affecting how often these kind of cases are happening is that some teachers and professionals are blurring the lines of authority through how they dress. And the more I actually discuss it with you guys, the more I'm thinking that I may be giving Teacher Bae too much of the benefit of the doubt, because I can't personally imagine intentionally and perversely seeking out the attention of children. However, I am actually hopeful that we actually start to see a shift back the other way for professionals. I maybe controversially think that the workplace isn't always the most appropriate place for self-expression anyway. And so the arguments around wanting to be yourself at work and wanting to express yourself at work, very short-sighted. Teacher Bae is more than welcome to wear her outfits on the weekends with her friends if that's what she wants to do. But I absolutely think that she should be dressed more formally at work. And if she were teaching any of my sons, I would be having a conversation with the school about that. From what I can see, it seems that she no longer works at this school. I don't know if this is a result of some of the feedback the school has been given, but I thought it was quite interesting for us to discuss. What do you think about provocative dress in the workplace, in particular for teachers? Do you have any thoughts on the way that Teacher Bae is dressed? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye bye.